This is Don't Mind
While we unwind.
We're live. This is it. We're doing it.
All right, episode 1. We've done it. I guess we haven't done anything yet, but we're here in studio.
We got it set up. I'm excited. And the World Cup was today. How exciting was that?
That was super fun. It went from pretty boring Argentina up 2-0. I thought it was going to be just kind of a womp womp, and then bam, just fireworks.
I mean, anyone who appreciates sports in general had to appreciate that match. It was insane.
And I don't, as some people know, I'm not a huge sports fan, but I mean, I was jumping up and down on the couch. The kids were yelling, "Daddy, be quiet! Daddy, be quiet!" But we could not contain ourselves. We had Grandma over here watching with us. Nana was getting a little wild too. It was fun.
So, fun fact for everyone listening: I played soccer my entire life, so obviously I've been a big fan. I've watched numerous soccer games at every level, and I can genuinely say that this was the most emotional roller coaster, thrilling match that I've ever witnessed.
And we had absolutely nothing on it. You know what I'm saying? We weren't betting on it. We didn't have a dog in the fight, all these things. And somehow it was riveting.
I do think it being just this generational battle between Messi and Mbappe.
Mbappe. Yeah,
Mbappe.
Yeah,
Messi and Mbappe.
A changing of the guard, if you will. Yeah, but it did not. Messi's, stayed on top.
And the fact that
despite what y'all might think, this is not a soccer podcast. So we'll get back on track.
I mean, this is the world sport.
Yeah, it was cool. No, all right. So the soccer was great today. We had our last of what felt like maybe, 20 Christmas parties.
So many.
A lot. We had school Christmas parties every other day. We had friends and family, we got the neighborhood, but it's all done. We can kind of relax a little bit and
we can finally unwind.
we can unwind. We're back. I have not officially got into pajamas, but
I did. As soon as we got home, I'm like, this is it. We're done for the next week at least. And I am going to just enjoy this home and doing nothing for a bit.
It's going to be cold. We're staying inside, but as we unwind, that means the kids are in bed. So I used to be kind of against this time change thing, the daylight savings time. But now that it gets dark at 5:30, I'm like, hey kids, chop. It's bedtime.
And people are like, hey, you want to bring the kids out at 7:30? And I'm like, no, why? When they go to bed at 6:45, I'm going to embrace that.
Sun's down, kids down. So now they're in bed. It sounds quiet upstairs. So, we're here downstairs in the library, aka the studio. And we can get rolling. So, a few topics we're going to cover here on Don't Mind While You Unwind. We're going to talk about family, industry, and leisure in no particular order, but obviously some of these things are more important than the other. Family is more important than leisure. So let's kick it off there. I guess, how did we meet?
On Tinder.
We met on Tinder. Shameful. We've been together a decade now, and it's still, we kind of gauge the audience about what kind of story we're going to tell here. Are we going to give the full unvarnished truth?
Sure.
Yeah, we met on Tinder, or are we going to, we had a bit of a cover story. So
we had a cover story for what felt like a few years into our marriage, honestly, where we told people we had met at a Braves game and we were set up by mutual friends, which all is true. I want to put that out there. We weren't lying.
Our mutual friend was not Tinder. We in fact did have a mutual friend that I went to school with at the University of Georgia. So she kind of vouched for me, and that helps, obviously, when you're going to go on this kind of blind date. And it's not like Tinder had been around a long time. It had been around like a couple months. And it's probably not quite as grimy as it's gotten these days, but it was still an experiment,
I think one of the first things I asked you was, have you gone on any other Tinder dates? Because I was like, I had not. You were the first person that I actually met in real life. And that was like, I was like, is he still on Tinder? Like, what's the protocol? Honestly, that was my first experience with a dating app. I had never done that. So I don't know. I was like, what's kosher? Am I allowed to ask him not to continue to date other people?
I was scared to even do like the DMs in Tinder. For me, it was more just like the hot or not game. I just like to swipe through the stuff. So anyways, you were obviously in the hot camp, swipe. I don't even know. I assume swipe right for that. So we ended up meeting IRL, as the kids might say, in the real world. We
don't ever say
in real life. Yeah. So we met up, and again, she had a friend who vouched for me, and we went to a Braves game with some of her good friends. So it was a familiar area for both of us. We had a great time.
Yeah, I would genuinely say, like, I would not want to be dating in this current world order, like, how things are, everything's shifted to online dating, there's so many different apps, it's like, it would be super intimidating.
I mean, we joke about it all the time. You know, if you go back in time to the 90s or the 80s, and I'm in my later 30s, and if someone said, "Hey, would you go back and be 20 again?" You know, back then I'd probably be like, "Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to be young. You know, you could replay life or whatever." But these days, I'm like, "No, nah, I'm gonna take 38. That's nice. I don't want to. I don't want to be stuck on my phone
I
and living in the digital." So
I will say I remember in college, back to soccer, my soccer coach was mid-30s at the time, and he kept saying, he was like, "You guys think you're having the time of your lives. Y'all are partying every night, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I'm telling you, the time of your lives is when you're in your 30s." And his claim was like, "Okay, you get to do whatever you want, so to speak, but you also have money and a house and, like, a family and all of these things that bring so much joy as well."
sure, not a given, you know, but you do want to. Yeah, yeah, not a given that you get those things when
True.
you're just because you're in your 30s. But once you do have them, it's certainly, you know, to know what I'm going to eat. You know, I'm not eating Chick-fil-A 3 times a day, not on the run. So it's nice being older. It's nice having a more steady, predictable, you know, type life. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll
Sure.
take 38.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't even know.
All right,
I
so that's
agree,
a
I'm not 38, but yes, I'll take the 30s.
we're gonna re up on that. We're gonna do it one more time. Okay, so you know, we met on Tinder, and then what? So what were you doing? You know, you
I was
graduate. I
working.
think you actually were still in school or about to graduate. Like,
No, so Oglethorpe, I had one additional credit that, because certain classes at Oglethorpe, it was a smaller liberal arts school in Georgia, um, because certain classes weren't offered every semester every year, there was one class that I should have probably taken my sophomore year that they didn't offer again until, like, fall of 2013, which was a semester after I technically graduated. So I had to finish that additional class
so
before I
you hung around.
walked.
Yeah, you hung around for basket weaving,
Right.
right?
I
So
was I was technically done, but in order to complete my major specifically, I had to do that one extra credit. So when we met, yeah, it was April of 2013. I then walked in May of 2013, and things moved pretty quick. I feel like we both, knew where our
were
heads were at.
you already working corporate, or did that happen after graduation? Were you
Yeah.
working corporate while you were taking basket weaving?
I think I was basket weaving. Never. That's not a course at Oglethorpe,
Hey,
unlike you,
sometimes
like
that's a
public
required.
schoolers.
That's a required credit. At
Uh-huh.
Georgia, it's a required credit. Everyone takes basket weaving at Georgia.
Yeah, no, not at Oglethorpe. But anyways, that's a conversation we'll debate on another another episode. I was already working corporate, and then from there, you and I, we moved quick. I moved in. I think I like forced myself to move in after 6
You
months, which
kind
was
of
also.
did, but you know how it is. You know, when younger folks are dating, and this was, you know, we're gonna date ourselves back when rent was like $1,000. You know, and
Yeah.
it's even worse now. But yeah, we were both paying a lot of money, kind of in town, downtown Atlanta, and we had that conversation. Like, you know, we spend all of our time together. It's currently my place because I'm scared to drive. I didn't want to drive to your heavily trafficked area. You know, so you came over there, and it made financial sense. And I'm a pretty easygoing person. You're a person that goes after what you want, and we both aligned on that one. And yeah, so we moved in a kind of a tidy house that also had little critters running around. So, like you said, it wasn't a
God.
mess, but it was
Yeah.
an old house. It was from like the 40s or something, a little bungalow.
But yeah, so we moved in together. I feel like we were, what, it was probably a year and a half after we met. We got engaged. He proposed at my company's Christmas party, which was always like a really big deal. I also happened to work where a lot of my best friends worked. So it was like a space that was filled with people I loved. And I told him, I want photographers like Lexi's slightly bougie, and I'm fine with owning that. But I was like, make it a deal. I'm not the girl that's like, okay, do it quietly in our home. No, give me the cameras, give me the action, give me the people waiting and watching for you to propose.
And you know, I'm a winner here because I didn't have to pay a photographer, and you know, I
There
might be
you
a
go.
little cheap
That's
sometimes. So
of course,
yeah, that
yeah.
was
Oh,
first and foremost in my mind. And there was also a little bit of pressure. So we actually had just bought a house. We were buying a
yeah,
house. We'd moved from renting to buying, and I knew and you knew that we didn't want to go into this thing with any kind of like lopsided power dynamics. And so we
Mhm.
teamed up, Team Lexi and Jordan right
Yeah.
there. And
And I think like fast forward to, now that's something that we still really pride ourselves on is we like things to be equal, but I don't know where it was we heard this recently, like equal doesn't always mean 50-50. Like a lot of times throughout our relationship and throughout our lives, there's going to be times where it's very heavily 70-30, and, one person's putting in way more effort and doing a lot more work than the
sure.
other person in the relationship. But I think what matters is that over time, it equates to 50-50, so that it's not always one person pulling the carriage by themselves, and that there's one leader at any given time, but that leader shifts constantly.
Sure. And life is fluid. It's not like every single day is exactly the same.
Right.
For example, if I was an accountant, I'm not, but say I'm an accountant, it's going to get really heavy around tax season and I might have to be at the office, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. But that's kind of what you're getting at. There are times when, my career is going hot and heavy or your
Sure.
career is going hot and heavy, and you got to kind of take that ebb and flow, and you got to roll that. You can't get upset or mad because you've got to put in extra work this week or this month or this year sometimes. So you got to, if you're going to be a team, it's based on team success, not,
Yep.
oh yeah, you're getting all the playing time, I'm riding the bench over here. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm used
And
to that from my old high school days, so I'll just let my other guys score the points and I'll ride the bench down there.
we can't both be shooters, right? Like
That's
one of
right.
someone's got to play defense, someone's got to be the scorer.
Hey,
Like
I'll be a role player. I'll be a role player for you here.
you would have been a good soccer goalie if we want to like parlay back to soccer.
I'm tall, but I would not say that I'm quick. I've never been accused of being quick, so
He's
probably not a great
accurate.
soccer
Yeah,
player.
your reaction time is on the lower percentile.
I've got like two speeds, and it's like slow and stopped. So it's probably gonna be one of those.
His nickname, I'll go ahead and throw it out there from high school, which still like carries on with his close friends, is Lazy J. So
Yeah, I have been accused of that before. Yeah. But I mean, when we were in high school, it was more like, the remote would be right over there on the table, and I didn't want to grab it. So of course I got to have my
hey,
buddies grab the remote, and that stays true today. I'll have my kids go grab the remote when it's 4 or 5 feet away. So
I am liking their independence lately. But
yeah,
okay, so let's talk a little bit about the business and what this is and how we got here, I guess. Obviously, if you don't know, we have a presence online on social media accounts, strolling in the suburbs. This was something that, like Jordan mentioned, when I left corporate, I was really trying to seek something where I could have an outlet that had nothing to do with my husband and kids. I, was diving into being a mom, but I was also apprehensive about losing my career, what felt like I was losing my career, and just really eager to start something. And my mom and I were like, okay, let's do a baby business and we're going
and
to.
and hold on. And to be clear, you're not talking about just the podcast. There are multiple angles or facets to
Sure.
your business and what you're doing. So the podcast is the latest of these things.
Correct.
But yeah, all of this kind of revolves around, social media influencing or content creation, digital creator, whatever the word of the week is. That's kind of what we're doing. And you've got
Sure.
over 100,000, followers on that platform. There are other platforms. So you're getting up in the high tens of thousands, 50,000 on TikTok, trying to crack into YouTube. So doing a lot of things at once. And we're not even totally sure, what do you do with an audience? Is this purely for monetization? Is this for joy, creative outlet? Like what are you trying to get out of this?
Well, like, and that's, in the beginning, it was like, okay, let's start this business and build this website, build a social media following for this. Then I decided, like, I'm really into this social media aspect and like the brand building. So I was like, why not do that for myself? That just like naturally took off for me. I love writing. I love sharing. I love networking. I love engaging and meeting people. And like social media at its best should be used for all of those things. So when the following grew, I, hit the point after a few years of doing it, like, how do we take this to the next level? And then I think from there, like you and I both got into it together, just like wanting to stay ahead of the trends, at the time, whatever those trends were. And now, like, for instance, like the evolution to video. Jordan and I really like instantly took to that. We went to YouTube. We like self-taught ourselves how to film cinematic videos, how to, you know, do all of these things and do them at like a exceptional level. And then that kind of really helped us this year to see the success that we have had, which was like having several very viral videos. And I think that's just because we were like, okay, if this is the next new thing, let's embrace it. Let's dive into it. Let's figure all we can out about it. And now, rather than waiting to be like our hand force, which is essentially
Sure.
where the point we're at now. If you're not like on doing video, you're behind.
Right. And if there's like one through line through, what we've done, our story, social media, all this stuff now, it's, evolution, and you have to evolve, and these technologies are evolving. So,
Yeah.
people weren't doing video on Instagram 4 years ago. You took the prettiest picture you could do. You slapped on a little filter, get the sunlight looking just right. And that was it. You type a little cheeky one sentence thing with a winky emoji, and that was Instagram. But that is no longer Instagram. So you got to kind of keep up with that reality.
I do. I like it. What's fascinating to me right now is like, I feel like, and maybe it's just me, that we've been in this like video loop, for a really long time. But like, kind of what you mentioned, it's hardly been a year of this being like truly the evolution of social media and like everyone diving into short form video.
Well, and
And
that's key too, is the short form. So
yeah,
because YouTube, and we are not big YouTubers. We haven't been doing YouTube for 10 years like some of you all
although
have.
this podcast will be on YouTube in case you want to watch the video.
Like, comment, and subscribe. No, yeah, but so people have been doing video, but like you're saying, is like the short form video, and of course there
Right.
was like Vine a few, like 7, 8, 9 years ago. Those are little 6-second videos, but it was really TikTok that came in as the big disruptor.
Sure. Hmm.
Facebook was just share your status, share a picture, whatever, and TikTok just kind of crept up, crept, and wow, and then it really
Which
made
I
all
guess
these other
I
companies
would I
adjust.
would probably credit like Snapchat, honestly, because they were the first, and not necessarily like video, but it was that kind of, I mean, it was video. It was like really quick, like 1 to 2 second, like boomerangs or like glimpses into every moment of your
Sure.
life. And then TikTok just took that to the next level and skyrocketed.
That's fair. And then, if, of course, Instagram, like these other, like the companies will do, that, imitation is art. They'll copy them. They're just going to copy them.
Yeah.
So Instagram took to stories. That was their, rebuttal to Snapchat. They're like, oh, people like just doing this direct
Yep.
video conversation with their friends. I'm going to do that. Yeah. And again, TikTok came in and basically did what Snapchat was doing better, took what Instagram was doing better. And now the rest are kind of playing catch up. So,
Sure.
we're in here trying to juggle what platform we're doing, and we're doing a podcast for some reason instead of putting out content on Instagram
I feel
or
like
TikTok.
podcasts are like going to have their moment, and I hope that we're still on the front end of that. I think we are, especially for females. I feel like podcasts have been heavily dominated by men to date, but I do think that's like changing and changing quickly.
I would agree. I like podcasts. I've kind of a nerd for audiobooks. Not so much now, but earlier in my life, I would crush through audiobooks. Back when I had to commute, I'd have a commute every day to and from. I would listen to audiobooks. I would listen to podcasts. And with the advent of like the wireless earbuds, AirPods or whatever you're
Yeah.
using, it makes it super nice and convenient. You can pop a podcast in. You can do the dishes. I would say mow the lawn. It gets a little loud to listen, but
Mm.
you can do your chores. You can get your stuff
When's
done.
the last time you mowed a lawn, dear?
Yeah, it's well, you got me off the lawn. You didn't like that I was mowing the lawn because it meant you were in here with the kids and looking
Yeah.
out the window at me. You thinking I'm having a good time. We're here in Georgia, so
I
it's hot.
have mowed lawns, and I will say that there are days where I would rather go mow a lawn than handle the kiddos, but that's just me personally.
I can recall like one time you
I
angrily
was
mowed our lawn.
pregnant.
Yeah, I think you
I
were pregnant. Yeah.
Jordan, so goes back to Lacey J here. Jordan is not exactly the one to like jump as soon as someone says like, "Hey, can you do something?" And I'm pretty sure the lawn was like knee deep, and I was beyond frustrated. And to prove a point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this lawnmower at 8 months pregnant and 90-degree weather in Georgia, and I'm gonna mow it. And you're gonna have to watch me and feel like terrible.
I would call it passive aggressive, but I believe this is what you
Oh,
would call aggressive.
aggressive.
This is just aggressive. Yeah. And absolutely true. I think I remember that. So you're talking about, I used to mow lawns. You mowed the lawn one time angrily. And I think that might've been it. You hired a landscaping service after
Yeah.
that because you want to be back in the house, and the rest is history. Yeah. So I have not been
I
mowing
don't
the
know
lawn
how we
much.
just got on that, but I felt the need to tell that story because it is a core memory for me, that moment.
Yeah. For both of us. Okay. So, all right. So that's how we met. We talked a little bit about your business. I'm in my 15th year at the company that I started with out of college. It's great. It affords me the ability to kind of work from home most of the time. Generally post pandemic, I used to go in 5 days
Mhm.
a week, but I'm doing sales and management. So I log my hours, but after hours, we put the kids to bed, and that's kind of when we will do the strategy for your business. We
Right.
sit here, and that's kind of how we came up with the concept is we turn on the fireplace, we sit around with, okay, what's going on? What are the trends? What do we need to do? Where are we falling behind? And we kind of evaluate ourselves.
Well, and the more and more we did it, it just became this like fun therapeutic like time that we had together. It gets tough talking when kids are around and not being interrupted. And that just kind of like throughout the day, Jordan would be like, I want to tell you something. And I'd be like, yeah, I want to talk to you. And like the kids would start saying something and he'd be like, you know what? We'll talk about it tonight. And that just like became our moment. And we always were like laughing and like having these great conversations that were like, darn, this is such good info and like intel and thoughts that we're like, we need to film this and share this. And that's kind of where this whole thing came from.
Yeah, and like you said with the kids, it's a form of release because somehow you talk to your kids all day, you ask them to do things, and they don't listen at all. But then when you talk to another adult, they are all up in your business. You
Yeah.
can get, and we always kind of
Mhm.
joke, we're like, let's see how many seconds we can go in this conversation before we get interrupted. It's
4.
typically, yeah, 4 is like the max.
We have we have
Yeah.
established our kids are so into us that it's about 4 seconds before they want to get involved if we're having a conversation with one
I
another.
feel like an NBA referee, and I'm counting how many seconds Shaq has been hanging out in the paint. I'm just pacing, 1, 2, up, interruption, and then we're back. So, okay, back to the while we unwind. So we put the kids down to bed at 7 or 7:30. We come down. Sometimes we'll have a glass of wine, sometimes not. But then we'll just come in here and we'll kind of talk shop. And you can. There's a lot of things you can talk about in life. You can talk about the weather, but you can only talk about the weather so much. So sometimes it's fun to branch out a little bit. And I love talking about your business. Like it's
Yeah.
super cool. It's super interesting because we don't really know where it's going, what's going on, kind of out there in the ether. So it's
And we're
interesting to me.
both like we're figuring out together. It's like almost this thing where we're picking each other's brains and then we were able to incorporate the travel into it, which was a huge part in our early relationship. So for us, like travel kind of goes like all the way back. It was something before we did it like within this business, it was something that Jordan and I did together when we first met. We both expressed interest in like seeing different parts of the world and like eating different foods and having different interactions and hearing different languages and just being submerged. And, right away, I think one of the first gifts I ever got you is taking you to Jamaica. And then from there, we're like, once a year, let's go to a different country. And we did that all the way up until Addie was 2, I
Yeah,
feel
we
like.
were stamping the passport. Well, yeah, on the Jamaica one. I only found this out after the fact, but you were, young in your career, and
Hmm.
you completely broke the bank
So
to
broke.
get us down there. Like we weren't married. We've been together a year and a half,
Yeah.
2 years, something like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and completely broke the bank. But we had an awesome time, and we still have memories from
I
that trip
was
now.
like, Jordan was doing well in his career, could have easily like taken care of this, but I was determined. I'm like, no, my mom is from Jamaica. So like there was something special about him going and I wanted that to happen before we like got further into our
You wanted it to be
relationship.
your gift to me. It was
Yeah.
your gift to me.
Yeah. And it was like I was taking him home, so to speak. So I wanted to gift him that. And yeah, it wasn't until like years later that I was like, ooh, I was sweating. I was working, extra hours trying to make sure that that vacation was like flawless. And I also wanted to set the standard of like, even though I'm broke, this is what I expect.
That's it. This is true. So we kind of went through this, again, the evolution of travel. And back then we didn't know any better. So it was kind of expensive. It was a pretty
Yeah.
expensive room
Oh my
package at a
God.
really nice resort.
our honeymoon, like, it makes me cringe thinking about it. Granted, it was, like, amazing, but, like, how much we spent, I'm like, "Damn, if I knew what we knew now, we could have done that so much cheaper and, like, gone for longer," or something, but we were just so naive then.
Sure, yeah. So we were kind of, on our honeymoon. We did the delayed honeymoon. Uh, Turns out we got pregnant like right at the night we got married. So unfortunately,
To the
you didn't
day.
get to have as much fun as I did as we're kind of trotting around Europe. But yeah, like you said, we spent more money on that trip. It was more of like, use your travel agent. It was the whole package, which was super
Sure.
nice for a honeymoon. You don't want to deal with all the logistics.
Yeah.
But then after that, we started doing an annual kind of international trip, or
Mhm.
sometimes twice a year, and we learned about like Scotch cheap flights. I think, I don't know, you found it out, or one of
Yeah,
my
just
coworkers found it
using,
out.
finding like, and our big thing was like we never were really like hard pressed on where we wanted to go, and we both had flexibility in work that we were like, let's just go where Scott takes us. And literally, if a deal popped up, and I'm like, okay, it's $350 round trip on Delta to go to Paris. Do we want to go to Paris? And
Let me stop here and say this is not a paid promotion for Scotch cheap flights. If
I
you want to
know
do it, you can do it for free, or it costs like $40 a year. But
Google
basically,
Flights
yeah,
also like
it's like
same thing.
it uses Google Flights. It sends you an email once a day, like a newsletter email, and it's like, hey, you're in Atlanta, you can fly direct to Amsterdam or Paris for
Hmm.
$350, and it gives you a range of dates. It'll be like between
May
April
and
and September,
right.
of the following year. And yeah, so we would just be receptive to that. We'd be texting in the middle of the day. You're like, hey, do you want to go to Iceland for $500? I'm like, I don't know, maybe not
I
Iceland.
I want to go to Iceland.
You do want to go. I know. I want to go to Iceland too. But back then, I wasn't sure on Iceland.
I
And
know.
then I think it might have been like the next day, and you're like, I think it was like Paris,
Paris.
$350
Yep.
direct. And I was like, book it. And
Yep.
that's the trick. That's just, getting to yes. That was the trick with travel and traveling as a couple and as a team. If you can make your decision making
Mm.
process, faster and more simple, you can get things done. You need both people to be on. You don't need to debate everything for hours. It's, do
Now.
you want to do this? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And then yeah,
Just and I think like going into 2023, we kind of incorporated this at the end of this year. Our motto is just like say yes. Like that I feel like has changed our outlook on parenting, our outlook on our marriage, our outlook on life in general. It's like being, like you said, receptive to saying yes, because at the end of the day, like what's the absolute worst that could happen if you say yes to something,
sure.
you
I
know?
mean, yeah, you'll avoid the FOMO again, as the kids say, the fear of missing out. If
If
you,
you say, as the kids say,
as the kids say, I'm no
like
longer
we're
a
like
kid.
grandpa and grandma.
I'm a sage, old, almost 40-year
Oh,
old.
okay.
Yeah,
Wise old man.
yeah, wise old man. Okay, so yeah, so we traveled to Europe a handful of times. We did the Caribbean a handful of times, and we would go for pretty cheap. So we would get airfare
Hmm.
direct. This is pre. No, we had Kennedy at this point. We had one daughter,
Yeah.
and your mom always super helpful.
Yep.
So she would watch her for 2 or 3 days, and that was another thing. A lot of people are like, oh
Hmm.
my goodness, how do you leave your child? Well,
Oh, it was hard. I remember, so when we had both girls, I think we went to Spain. It was 2 months maybe after we had Addie, like very shortly after having her, and I think every day for like 30 minutes I cried, and I was like, "I miss her," but at the same time I was like, "But this is good for me. This is good for us, like our marriage, like, and it's good for our, children to be okay with
right. So
grandma. Like
now
they're
we can,
safe."
yeah, we can go to the grocery store and they don't panic. We
Right.
can, we can go on a like an overnight trip. We were in Chattanooga up in the mountains a couple nights
Mhm.
ago. We left them with grandma for a night or two, and it's not a big
Now they
deal.
don't even flinch. They're
Yeah,
like, "So what are you bringing me home?" And I'm like,
that's right. Yeah,
"Jesus."
what stuffed animal are you bringing me? What
Yeah.
state? It's nice. They ask us what state or what country are we going to? Are we flying? Are we driving? So we'll give them that. But it's nice to kind of set that standard early. So now it's not a big deal when we have to leave them. And
And
yeah,
they're at the same time though, like they come with us a lot of the time. So they're also used to also being like, "Okay, where are we going?" Addie got to the point this year, especially after all the trips that we went on, and she was like, every month she's like, "Where are we going? When's the next time I'm going to be on an airplane?" Like she loves changing her scenery, and I
right.
think both girls got really accustomed to doing that periodically, even if it wasn't like a grand adventure. They just want to see something different every now and then, or know that like life's going to be like change up a little bit here and there.
Sure. To be clear, we travel with the family like 80% of the time. And we'll
Now, yeah.
actually, in our secret life hack, and if you guys have a support system like this, we use your mom as much as
Yeah.
possible. Like we'll bring, we'll pay for her airfare. We'll put her on. We
Mhm.
love having that extra set of hands. We understand how grateful we are to have that support system close by. We've got some friends who don't have, family or
Right.
in-laws in town, and it's hard. It's heavy lifting. I
Yeah.
mean, we're begging for mercy after 4 or 5 days with our kids. Like,
Sure.
please, grandma, save us.
No, I think the best babysitting gig that one of my girlfriends had in college was she was essentially like so close with the family that she traveled with them and they did the same thing. They didn't have parents around, but they just had her come and they paid for her trip and she didn't charge them an hourly rate then when she was there. She was like, "Hey, just house me and pay for my flights and I'll watch your kids when you need." And then of course they would give her like a couple hours here and there to like explore on her own and do whatever, but that's a great idea too. I mean, it
It
doesn't
was
have to be a
true then.
grandparent.
Yeah, no, it
Use
was true then. It's true now. Parents need help.
right.
It takes a village. These kids are tough. Our kids are great. We love our kids, but we'll take any help if any of you out there. What I'm kidding, but no, it's always the support system. Whether that's family, it can be friends, but it's a big deal, and
Sure.
that can roll into travel as well.
All right. So we're about to be in 2023, like days from now.
Mhm.
What is like something that you're looking forward to next year? What is something that you want to see for like you, us, the family? Like
We have not sat down for a vision board.
I feel like we've got to do that. So maybe that can be on our next episode.
Yeah, I mean, we set the bar really high. It was a great year, for you professionally and for me professionally. Our kids had a great year. 2022 was a great year, all things considered, for our family. So how do we replicate and improve that? You don't want to just mail in the status quo. You want to see if
Mhm.
you can do a little bit better next year. So we do have some homework to do.
We got homework. Y'all have to tune in for episode 2.
Don't mind while we unwind. I don't know if we have a cool jangly guitar to like play us out.
You know we got some
Yeah.
sort of jangly guitar here.
Don't tell the kids, but I got them a ukulele for Christmas. So if I can figure that one out, I'll do my own jangly.
Spoiler, jeez.
Hey, I don't think our kids have access to podcasts.
Let's
Hopefully.
hope. Let's hope not.
And if we can get this thing produced and our kids download it by Christmas, I'll
Ooh.
be proud of them. They'll be proud of us, and I'll be proud of them.
That's a good
All right,
one.
y'all.
All
So
right,
we'll
it's a wrap,
we'll
y'all.
catch you next time.